Good afternoon. I'd like to do another quick sound check. If you can hear me loud and clear, please type yes in the chat box. Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the Travel and Expense Approver Training. My name is Kathy Blackburn. I am the General Ledger Accounting Manager, and joining me today is Annette Jordan. She is the Travel Supervisor. Today we'll be talking about updating banking information. We'll review the different types of transactions in the new Travel and Expense module, and we will walk through approving travel authorizations, travel advances, and expense reports. The benefit of the Travel and Expense module is that it is powerful and easy to use, and it dramatically reduces the amount of time and effort to submit, process, and approve expense reports. It also allows you to encumber your travel authorizations on your budget. As an approver, the approver is anyone who will approve expense transactions in Peoplesoft. And as an approver, you'll be responsible for approving travel authorizations, travel advances, and expense reports. It's important to note that level 1 and level 2 approvers in the travel and expense module are the same as they are in the payment request workflow, with the exception of having the ability to ad hoc. This function is not available in the travel and expense module. You can add additional approvers for travel, however, they will be included in the workflow for payment request. Updating banking information. This is just an informational slide for you because the first step for the traveler to be valid within the system is that they would need to update their banking information. And we want to make sure that they input that information correctly, both their routing number and bank account number, because all payments in the travel and expense module will be made via direct deposit. So it will go directly into their bank accounts. So now we'd like to talk through the different types of transactions in this new module. We have travel authorizations, your TAs, travel advances, and expense reports, your old TRVs. A travel authorization is an estimate of what an employee's cost may be for hotel, transportation, etc. A travel authorization is required from the travel office for the following 3 items: expenses $5,000 or greater, all foreign travel, and all travel advances. However, please note that your department may determine that you are required by your department to do travel authorizations for all travel. So just remember that. So if your department requires that and you submit an expense report without a TA, it may not get approved. It'll probably get sent back, but the travel office will require only these 3 things: expense reports greater than $5,000, all foreign travel, and all travel advances. After a TA or a travel authorization has been submitted, approved, and budget checked, the amount on the TA becomes encumbered on your budget and is basically set aside from your budget. Of course, the travel office will perform all final approvals if it's created for the criteria that we listed above. That criteria again being expenses over $5,000, all foreign travel, and all travel advances. Any questions on the travel authorization?
And let me just add, the 3 requirements for the travel authorization, those are only the travel authorizations that will be approved by the travel office, but you will also need to do a travel authorization if you are ordering an airline ticket and charging it to the TA.
Charging it to the travel agencies, the corporate travel agencies. Thank you. Travel advances. A travel advance is to minimize the business travel impact on the employee's finances. And you can create a travel advance for items such as hotel, lodging, and meals. If you need a travel advance, you're required to have a travel authorization. Travel advances can only be created for up to 70% of the total estimated expenses for hotel, lodging, and meals up to $3,000 without requiring pre-authorization from the travel office. You can only have one travel advance at a time, and it must be applied to your expense report or repaid to the university. Of course, the travel office will perform all final approvals on travel advances. Any questions about travel advances? Okay. Expense reports. An expense report in Peoplesoft will make it easy to transform a handful of receipts into a final document for expense reimbursement. And as we talked earlier, expense reimbursement in the new travel and expense module is via direct deposit. You can create an expense report by not associating a travel authorization, meaning it doesn't meet the criteria. You can create an expense report by associating a travel authorization, meaning that it was foreign travel, 5,000 or greater, or a travel advance. And you can also create an expense report by associating a travel authorization and applying a travel advance. Any questions on that? Okay. So the approver's responsibility when they receive either they go through their workflow or through the email is to validate the traveler's name, open the attachments and look at them, look at the notes because there may be some information that either the proxy or the traveler or another approver has put in there. Examine the expense lines and amounts, and of course look at your accounting details and add any appropriate comments if necessary. So what I'd like to do is go out of this presentation and we'll walk through what it looks like when you receive an email to approve a travel transaction. So the first thing we're going to look at is an approval of a travel authorization. Of course, a travel authorization is required for expenses 5,000 or greater, all foreign travel, and travel advances. And when a travel authorization has been done for a traveler and you are in their workflow, you will receive an email that looks like this. And you'll be able to look on here and see who your traveler is. In this example, it's Traveler 25. It's going to show you your travel authorization description, basically your purpose of your trip, the travel authorization number, and then the amount that they've estimated for this trip. You will click on that link. And it will ask you to sign in to Peoplesoft. So you'll sign in with your user ID. And it will immediately take you to the approval page. On the approval page, you're going to want to validate who your traveler is. In my case, it's Traveler 25. You're going to want to look at the purpose of their trip, which is in your description. They went to a conference in Hong Kong. You're going to see the dates that they traveled. Down here, you're going to look at the different type of expenses that they say they're going to have, including the estimated amounts and total for this particular trip. You're going to want to click on related content and your accounting details. And if you look down here at the bottom, it's going to give you those expense types summarized and the chart fields that are associated with that dollar amount. When you're satisfied with that, you're going to click on the little pagelet setting and hit close. At this point, you want, if there are attachments, because a travel authorization does not require an attachment, but if you have some unusual expense, you would want to put an attachment so your approvers can look at it. So you would click on your attachment. Click on the file name, open it. It'll bring up your attachment. This is just a test attachment. When you're done with that, hit your X and close it. It'll bring you back into the page. Click OK. Now you're back on the approval page. You will also want to look at your notes to see if there was anything in there. So in this section, you can see where Proxy 25, the person who created the travel authorization on behalf of Traveler 25, has put in a note. If you have something else you want to add, you can add it in the comment section. Click Add Notes. And as you can see, it's added it here. Click OK. So now you've pretty much looked at everything on your travel authorization. If you have a situation where you don't like something or something was not included, you can type in the comment section whatever that is. Click the send back button. That will go back to the proxy. The proxy will then correct that travel authorization and put it back through the workflow. If you have something that you want to hold on to it because this workflow looks just like payment request, so there's multiple people, there's a possibility of multiple folks in your workflow. So if you want to check something out, you can put it on hold. When you do that, you'd have to also put in a comment, click the hold button, and that would reserve that travel authorization for you to go research whatever you were looking for. You could go back into it and then approve it, and it would continue down the workflow process. But if you're good with what it looks like right now, you would hit the approve button. It would bring you up a confirmation page. You're just validating the dollars. Click OK. And now this particular travel authorization has gone forward in the approval. If you're already in Peoplesoft or you currently don't like to use your email and you use your work list, you can also go to your work list to approve it. And our travel authorization ended in 95. You can click on that. That will once again take you to this approval page where you will validate your traveler. You will validate the purpose of their trip, the dates that they traveled. You can see the travel authorization number. Look at the expense types, the estimated amount, the total estimate for the trip. Once again, you could click on the attachments. I won't open it this time, but you would open it the same way. Click OK. Click the notes. So now you know I'm approving it at another level. So you see all the notes that have been added so far. So you could add additional note if you needed to. Click OK. Once again, look at your accounting details. Make sure that they're good. Click your pagelet setting. Click close. And now if you're good with it, you can approve it from here. Hit approve. It will bring you up a confirmation page. Click OK. And it's moved on through the process to the next person. If you ever want to see what that approval history looks like, you can click the arrow button. And as you can see right now in this particular travel authorization, it's gone through the traveler and the travel office in this case, basically approval level 1. Any questions on travel authorization approvals?
So we have a question. Is there one work list with all payment requests, requisition, and travel together? Yes, your work list should show all items that would need to be approved.
And I'm in the training environment, so it's only showing me whatever I've put out in this training environment. Good question. Okay. Any other questions about that?
You have someone typing?
Okay.
How does workflow go with multiple funding sources?
So workflow with multiple funding sources, it would go by the first department that was input in the travel authorization. And then if you needed to have other departments approve, there is an ad hoc form that we are showing the proxies, and you can have them ad hoc that, basically sign that form and attach that form to the travel authorization.
Did I understand you to say that we are not required to attach travel documents?
So we are only talking about a travel authorization at this point. So if your department requires information to be attached, then yes, you would be required. But the travel office does not require attachments for a travel authorization. They do require attachments for both a travel advance and an expense report.
So Kelly, did we answer your question about across departments, how the workflow? Okay, yes.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to how to approve a travel advance. Okay, so if a travel advance has been done for a traveler and you are in their workflow, you will receive an email that looks like this, and it's telling you that you have a travel advance up here in the description. Also, a travel advance ID always starts with a 2, a travel authorization always starts with a 1, and an expense report always starts with a 3. So in this example, once again, I'm traveler 25. It's telling me where I'm going. I'm going to a conference in Hong Kong, and I'm asking for $1,180 travel advance. So if an approver 1 or 2 received this email, they would click on the link. And it brought me directly here because I was signed into Peoplesoft. It would normally bring you, if you were not signed into Peoplesoft, it would have brought you to that first page that we saw, and then you would have had to have signed in. So now it's bringing me to the travel advance page. On this page, once again, you're going to validate the traveler, the purpose of the trip. Here you can see that a travel authorization was associated with this travel advance, which is required. And it's telling you that you're asking for a travel advance for Hong Kong of $1,180. You would want to then look at your related content, look at your accounting behind that, make sure all of that's good. Once you're good with that, click on your pagelet setting and close. Travel advances always require an attachment of a travel advance form signed by the traveler. So you would click on your document and open it. Once you see all of that information and you're good with it, you would close this by clicking on the X at the top right. And then that's going to take you back to this. Click OK. And it takes you back to the approval page. You want to click on the notes. As you can see, our proxy added some notes. If you had notes that you needed to add, you would click in the text box and add as needed. Click Add Notes. Click OK. Now, if you are happy with all of this, you can click Approve. But as we talked about earlier, it has the same functionality. If you didn't like this and you thought that they were asking for too much money or whatever the issue may be, put a comment in the text box and hit the Send Back button. Or if you had questions and you just didn't want anybody else in the workflow yet to touch it, you could put it on hold. If you're good with it and everything is where you want it, you click the Approve button. It'll give you a confirmation pop-up screen. Validate that. Click the OK. And it has now moved on to the next level within the approval workflow. If you are in your system, similar to a travel authorization, and instead of approving from your email, you can approve from your work list, which you click your work list on this top bar, and you find which one you're looking for. So in this example, we were looking at a travel advance, which starts with a 2, and as you can see, it says advance ID number 2, and it happened to be number 34. Once again, you're going to come up with the exact same page. You're going to validate the traveler, the purpose of the trip, the fact that they have a travel authorization number and now an advance number. You're going to look at your attachments, pull them up, validate them. You're going to look at your notes. You're going to add if you need to. Click OK. And then you are either going to approve it, send it back, or hold it. So in this example, we're going to approve it, hit OK. And now it has gone through the workflow to the next approval level. Any questions on travel advances, approval of travel advances? Okay. So we are going to pop over and we're going to talk about expense reports. Expense reports, same thing. So if a proxy has done an expense report for a traveler and you are in their workflow, you're going to receive the email, and as you've noticed by now, all the emails look exactly the same. The only thing that's changing is the report ID. So it's the same traveler, 25. The report description is the purpose of the trip. The report ID, because it's an expense report, starts with a 3, and this is the amount they're asking to be reimbursed for. So you would click on the link. And remember, I just happen to be already signed in, but normally it would ask you to sign in. It's going to take you to the approval page, and you are going to see the traveler and the purpose of the trip. It will tell you whether or not a travel authorization is associated with this. You'll scroll down and you will see all the different expense types that are getting reimbursed and the actual dollar amounts that are being reimbursed. You'll want to go up to your related content and see your accounting details. So now you're going to look at all your different accounting details by expense type. If that looks like what it should look like, then you hit your pagelet settings and hit close. You would want to click on your attachment, click on your document within your attachment, open your attachment, and in this case you would want to see an approval form, ad hoc forms if you needed it, and receipts. If you're good with that, click your X at the top. Excuse me. All right, it takes you back. Click OK. You can also look at notes. So as you can see, your proxy put in some information. If you had information that you needed to add, you would add as needed. Click the Add Notes button. Click OK. So at this point, if you are good with everything that you're looking at and you think this expense report is ready to move forward, you can hit the Approve button. If not, you can send it back with a comment or you can put it on hold with a comment. So we are going to approve it. It gives you a confirmation page, and we are going to click OK. Any questions about how to approve an expense report? No? So we want to talk about what happens if you are out of the office for any particular reason. So I am going to show you, you would need to assign an alternate approver. So say for whatever reason you were out on sick leave for 2 weeks and you didn't want this to build up or you didn't have access to your system and you needed to assign an alternate approver. You would do that by going into Main Menu, My System Profile, and we'll do it from this page. Actually, go all the way to the bottom, My System Profile, and then if you notice right here, it's got an alternate user. You would go in. What it's looking for is their network ID. You may not know that, so you could click on the lookup button, hit Advanced Lookup, and you could type in their last name by going into Description and Contains. Type in their last name, look them up. So there is Joanne, we're going to use her. And you would then put in whatever dates you're going to be gone. Say you're gone from the 22nd and then through the 31st. And then she would now be in the workflow. At this point, you would hit Save. Any questions on that?
We got someone typing.
Okay.
Does a person have to be authorized Peoplesoft user?
The person to be an approved, yes, they would have to have the approver role in travel and expense in order to be able to be an alternate user. Good question.
Does the person who enters the TA do the budget check?
The budget check is will be run nightly in a batch. Currently, I run it every day, but it will be a batch job that will be similar to other batch jobs. It'll be run every night at around 7 o'clock.
So we have to go through a process to get them approved for Peoplesoft user.
So if you sent them to me on the list, the forms that I had sent in, they will be given the initial ESS role, employee self-service role, and whatever role that you have. But after the phases, if you have someone totally new, they will have to have Peoplesoft access. And then you will have to request them to have the role. But currently, through phases 1 through 5, those sheets that I've requested that you turn in to me that show who your approvers are, who your proxies are, and who your travelers are, individuals will be given the role in travel and expense based on that. And for proxies, they're required to have in-class training before they are given the role.
Grants and funds management will no longer approve TAs, correct? If paid on a grant.
So if it's paid on a grant, approval level 1, similar to payment request, goes to whoever in your department is the PI. If you don't have one in your department, then it goes to whoever in your department approves for payment request. It handles the exact same workflow as payment request, with the exception of ad hoc ability.
So yes, that is correct. Grants and funds management will no longer approve the TA. Okay, we've got one more.
Okay.
Happy? You're welcome.
Okay.
Will the PI have to approve it twice if they are also the traveler?
Yes, so the traveler always has to approve first, unless the traveler puts their own in. But if a proxy puts the information in on behalf of the traveler for any type of transaction within travel and expense, then they are required to approve first. And then it goes through your normal workflow of approval levels 1 and 2. So while we're out here, I do want to also show you the Peoplesoft resource page. So the walkthrough that we just do on how to approving expense transactions, if you go to the normal USC page, type in Peoplesoft in the top right corner and hit go. The very first line that you get that comes back, click on it. Get rid of this. This takes you to Peoplesoft, the information technology page. If you scroll down, you'll see Peoplesoft Resources. Scroll down on this. This is all the different Peoplesoft training related resources for all different areas. If you scroll to the very bottom, there's a section on travel and expense. If you click here, this is going to give you all the different webinars that we have had. Plus, it's going to give you quick reference guides. So, for example, approving expense transactions, let's click on that. That will walk you through what we just walked through today. It'll give you scenarios. It'll give you tips and tricks, prerequisites for that, walk through the different qualifications for like travel authorizations, and then screen by screen, it will talk to you about what you need to be looking for. This is a fabulous page. The resource page has lots of information on it. Any questions about that? No? Okay. So this is our rollout schedule. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this by now. Phase 1, which everyone on this webinar should be in phase 1. We're going to go live February 5th. We're very excited about it. We've been trying to do as much training as possible. The Peoplesoft resource page I just showed you. It's a great resource. Please utilize it. We'll be putting more and more information out there. Basically, it'll help you step by step go through the different transactions. Any questions?
Got someone typing.
I think we have a couple people typing. I think they're still typing out there.
Okay. So if it's up to the approvers to make sure that foreign travel is budgeted if a TA is input with foreign travel. So is it up to the approvers to make sure that foreign? So if you're talking about a grant, it would be up to the PI to make sure that foreign travel is budgeted. Being that we are approvers, we heard that all receipts had to be submitted at one time. Is that correct?
Yes.
No partial payments.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, so you would wait until after the trip has been taken and you would submit all of the expenses on one expense report. But payment requests could be done for registration, correct? So if you're paying the supplier directly, you would do a payment request. But if you're reimbursing the traveler, then you would, of course, wait until the trip has been taken and submit all of the expenses on one expense report after the trip has completed. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.